Hello everyone, welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your latest daily rundown ahead of the action at the 2026 PDC World Championship. Apologies, this video is a little bit later than usual. Obviously, a quick turnaround with the quarters, semis, final, and I've had quite a bit on. So we've only got a couple of games to whiz through, so shouldn't be too strenuous. Frustrating day on the quarterfinals overall, particularly with I played the ton plus finishes in various combinations in the Humphreys van Veen match, and I think Gian managed 3 in very early on. Luke at 158, but then he just kept missing all his other attempts on the double or on the bull, and it was just one of those really. Clayton Searle, I was very disappointed with Johnny Clayton. I'm sure he was disappointed with himself as well. His doubling was the costly element of that game really. Ryan Searle, as we'll come on to, really dipped in the middle of that match, worryingly so. And I think if Clayton was playing even sort of 10-15% better than he did, he may well have turned that game around. So it'll feel like an opportunity missed for Johnny Clayton there. But pleased for Ryan Searle to get through. Obviously, the semi-final, he's going to do a hell of a lot for his rankings. I believe he's up to world number 7 now. Could be as high as world number 3 tonight with results going his way. So bonkers, really. But anyway, not to dwell on that. Let's dive into these two games then, because we've not got long until they kick off, really, 6 hours or so. Luca Littler versus Ryan Searle is up first. Littler 1-9 favourite to make a third consecutive final, and Searle all the way out at 8-1. Hard to disagree, really, and like a lot of people, the discourse seems to be people fearing that this is going to be another Littler drubbing, and you can see why. I mean, he's only dropped 2 sets in the tournament so far. So has Searle. But the context around it's been very different. I mean, Littler had everything thrown at him by Rob Cross and held him off. Then last night against Krzysztof Ratajski was absolutely ruthless. Ratajski should have won a set. I backed him to win a set myself. I think he missed 3 or 4 set darts to win set 4. Very frustrating. But Littler was, again, much the best. I mean, set 1, Ratajski was throwing for it. He was on a finish, and then Littler takes out 170. So just Littler doing Littler things, really. And I don't like getting overly involved in his matches unless it's against a top-class opponent, really, because we all know what tends to happen, really. So, and the market certainly does too. As I mentioned with Ryan Searle, I was just worried about the dip against Johnny Clayton mid-game yesterday. I think his averages from set 3 to 6 were actually like 89, 90, 92 and 88, which ain't going to cut it against Luke Littler. We need grade A Ryan Searle to turn up here to make this a game. And you worry whether it's doable, really. Has he ran his race? So, like we see a lot of players over the years get to a surprise kind of quarterfinal or semi-final, and they're kind of content with that. I don't know if Ryan necessarily be content with that, but I think he'll be he's such a realistic and laid back guy. He'll be very honest and say that he needs everything to go right here for this to be close, I would say. He's definitely got the game. Like these two, the first time these two met was in a Players' Championship final on Littler's first ever Pro Tour event. 2 years ago. And Littler won it 8-7. Searle averaged 111 in that game and lost. And that was a sign of what was to come, obviously, for everybody, for the whole field. But he couldn't have played any better, and he lost. They've played 5 times overall. Littler's won all 5. Even the 2 where Littler's been, there's been 3 of those where Littler's averaged 107, 110, 100 and whatever, as he does. There's a couple where he's averaging the low 90s and Searle's lost them as well. So mentally, Searle has not got that kind of previous experience of beating him and knowing that he can beat him. So I do think that a scrubbing is on the cards, really. I think he'll do well to get more than a couple of sets. However, if he is going to get on the board, Searle, and make this competitive, I think it's the first set that's going to be key for him. Fast starts have been a hallmark of this run to the semi-finals. All 5 of his games, he's won the first set. 4 times he's averaged a ton or more in that first set. So for whatever reason, he does seem to be able to come out of the blocks quickly, Ryan Searle. I think he'll have the crowd very much with him. Littler occasionally can be a slow starter. We've not seen much of it in this tournament. We saw a hell of a lot of it at the Grand Slam and the Grand Prix, where he was having to sort of come from behind. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ryan Searle can take the first set. Now, if you just wanted to back him to win the first set, you can get 9-4, which I think is pretty generous, to be honest. That's with Bet365, but also Sky Bet. The way I prefer to play it is, because I don't want to go mad on this game, I'm just going to have a point on the double result market, which is Bet365 offer this, and it's the result after 2 sets and the result after the match. It's like half-time, full-time in football. You can back it to be a draw after 2 sets, but Littler to win the match at 6-4. I think that's worth a point. It gives you a couple of sets there for Searle to nick one of them. I think ideally the first, you could just back the 9-4 on him to win the first set. It's probably a tad too big, to be honest. The way I would also suggest playing this, if you do like that angle of Searle to maybe nick the first set, I've also split half a point each on Searle to win the first set, but Littler to win the match 6-1, which is 18-1 at Bet365. And then I've had Searle to win the first set, but Littler to win 6-2 at 11-1 with Bet365. So that's the way I'm going to play it, kind of banking on Searle to, if he is going to make an impact in this game, it might be early, he might fly out of the blocks with the crowd behind him. But ultimately, I do see the pattern of this game being quite a comfortable victory for Littler. It's a bit boring, but it's also, you've got to acknowledge the class on show and the dominance. It's a little bit shades of the Taylor era, isn't it? Where it's like, okay, it feels a little bit inevitable, but you've got to admire it. So yeah, that's the way I'm going to play that first semi-final. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Ryan Searle can make a spectacle of it. But you do have to say, on all evidence that we've had recently, that Littler is looking like it's going to take a world-class performance to give him problems. Second semi-final, on paper, a lot more interesting. And I think that maybe, just a little bit, Gian van Veen's been overbet for this match. I love Gian, and I think he's could easily win this world title. Him and Littler in the final would be probably for neutrals the best final in terms of they could both average 110 kind of thing. So yes, totally get why the money has come for him. What I would say is there a little bit of overreaction to the way he's beaten Luke Humphries? Because beating Luke Humphries 5-1 on paper is a marvellous achievement. But he did have a perfect head-to-head record against Luke Humphries this year. He'd won 4 out of 4 meetings. So there was already a bit of a mental turmoil there for Luke Humphries if he did go behind to sort of say, oh, it's happening again. So he had that in his favour last night. I also thought Humphries was a little bit lax on the doubles by his own high standards. Well, more than a little bit, to be honest, but pretty poor on the doubles by his own standards. And Gian was very good, as he usually is. He's the best doubler in the PDC. So all that kind of was there to me was a continuation of a few trends, and it ended up being quite one-sided. It probably wasn't a 5-1 game. Just Gian played the better legs at the key moments. He nicked at least 2 sets and, managed to sort of see it home and surge home. But there's no guarantee that pattern's going to repeat itself again tonight. He plays Gary Anderson here. Gary Anderson has won the 2 previous TV meetings between these two on the Euro Tour and at the Grand Slam of Darts last year. That was over a long format as well. 16-14, Anderson won it. And I think he was 9-7 up. And in the last 14 legs of that game, all went with throw. And Van Veen was throwing all sorts of firepower at Anderson, trying to get that break back. And it was just hold in 12, 13, 14, etc. Really high quality. He stood up to the challenge, Anderson. Now, as well as that kind of psychological edge that he may have here, he has the experience edge as well, massively. Semi-finals, and I actually was thinking back, and I can remember Anderson taking advantage of a similar situation to this with Dave Chisnell a few years ago. Now, I'm not saying that Dave Chisnell and Gian van Veen are a similar type of player, but what happened is Chisnell beat MVG 5-0 in the quarterfinals, MVG being a big tournament favourite at the time. Chizzy come into the semi-final, very heavily backed because of the way he played, didn't really replicate those standards, and Anderson just sort of took advantage of the situation and won, got himself into a final with Gerwyn Price, which he lost. I would say Gary Anderson's playing better this time than he was then, and he's been in this situation so many times before. Gian is still learning, as brilliant as he is, and he is of that Littler mould where he doesn't necessarily need experience to achieve because he's that good. But I do think that Gary's experience counts for something in this occasion, magnitude, and the circumstances around it. So I'm giving Anderson an experience edge, and I'm giving him, a potential edge in terms of the head-to-head and it being a very different game to what Van Veen versus Humphries was. Now, I think Van Veen does deserve to be a favourite here, but if it was me, I'd probably have Gary Anderson more around the 11-8 mark. So to be able to kind of freely get 13-8 across the board on Anderson, I think the 17-10 is not actually there. The odds checker saying is there. Yeah, that's with Bresbet, who I don't think are going to lay you much, but 13-8 seems very fair to me. So in terms of this actual game, the way I'm going to play it, I'm going to have 2 points on Gary Anderson to win at 13-8. I think he might drift a little tiny bit more as well. I'm recording this at 2 o'clock. I think the money will keep coming for Van Veen. I'm going to have a 2-point win bet on Gary Anderson. I'm also, just for a little bit more interest as well, going to just touch the correct scores here, because I do think this game could go quite deep. The 6-4 Anderson at 19-2 and the 6-5 Anderson at 8-1. I really do believe if the game does get into those kind of depths, I give Anderson an edge there, because that's when I think that the experience and the pressure, it might just come in crucial. Like the fact that Gary's been there and done it before. I think if Gian is going to win this, then I'd be looking at more like a 6-2, maybe even a 6-1. Like I think if he flies out the blocks, that's his best chance. I think if this becomes nip and tuck, Anderson has shown with the previous meetings, with his own previous experience, and the way he's come through this tournament as well. Like he's won a really narrow contest against Jermaine Watamina, where they were both playing fantastically well. He's won a very close contest against Michael van Gerwen that wasn't that close on the scoreline, but if you actually watch the game, it wasn't a 4-1 game. It was kind of it felt like a 4-2, 4-3, where just Gary at the big moments held himself together better, but was still like facing a barrage at times from Van Gerwen. So I just think that like on the numbers, yes, and Van Veen's on an upward trajectory. I think he's a worthy favourite. I think he may well win this, but I think at current prices, you could do a lot worse than just get with Gary Anderson. And I think you get a good spin for your money. And if not, I think then, we've probably seen something pretty special from Gian van Veen. So yeah, I won't be going mad on it, but a couple of points on Gary Anderson and half a point on the correct scores of 6-4 and 6-5. And just to remind you, in the first game, I'm going to be playing a point on Littler Searle to be level after 2 sets, but Littler to win at 6-4. And then a half point on Searle to win the first set, but Littler to win 6-1 at 18-1. And a half point on Searle to win the first set, but Littler to win 6-2 at 11-1. So they're my best bets for the semi-finals. Hopefully we just get 2 entertaining semi-finals, really. I'm not looking at these as a massive punting opportunity, to be honest. The markets are very well formed. A lot of data people playing these markets at this stage. And to me as a darts fan, I just want 2 competitive matches. So if Ryan Searle can turn up and make it entertaining, and if these 2 can knock 7 bells out of each other, I'll be a happy man. But I will be back tomorrow to preview the final, last vlog of the tournament as well. So please do give us a thumb up if you're enjoying them. Let me know what you're backing in the comments. Love to hear your predictions for the games. And I'll be back tomorrow to preview the final. Thanks very much.